I had an argument with my producer, Thal, the other day about whether we are creating a radio show or a podcast. Thal believes that we are making a radio show. As a member of Galactic Public Radio, Thal makes radio shows. The fact that we don't broadcast on radio waves means nothing to Thal. A lot of GPR shows don't use radio waves. And as Thal was quick to point out, not everyone listens to our show on an iPod. So the pod in podcast that used to seem so important is now almost as irrelevant as radio waves. It's a semantic distinction, really. One of the fascinating things about living in the age we do today is all our new technology has a love of what came before it. It's delightfully postmodern. You see, modern technology used to be about leaving the past behind. Our current state of innovation is one that cozies up to what has come before, runs alongside it, emulates it. The technology I use to make this show has the illusion of knobs and slides and wood paneling, even though it's a screen in a box of aluminum that I operate with a touchpad. I was thinking about this, thinking about fake knobs on my audio editing software, about why this is a radio show, things like that, when I was talking to one in the 3 rooms that they have occupied for their entire life.
It's an okay setup. I've got my bed here. I've got my workstation. Kitchen over there, but I never use it. Roger, he uses it sometimes. Makes a grilled cheese. As prisons go, it's not bad. I've got a window.
You consider this a prison?
I can't leave, so yes. I do consider it a prison. It fits the classic definition. There are other names, I suppose. Vault, safe, jewelry box, wherever you would keep valuable things.
And you're a valuable thing.
I'm valuable, yes. I am the most valuable person currently in existence.
Why is that?
Because I'm the first. The first of a new kind of human being. The first and only true artificial intelligence. Not a huge fan of that term, though.
This is Jared Axelrod, and you are listening to the voice of Free Planet X. Technically, one is the property of Emergent Systems, an engineering conglomerate that is involved in every high-tech venture under the sun, from smartwatch apps to things like Huxley Branson's privatized space travel project. One started as an attempt to create a virtual therapist. Studies with rudimentary versions, animated faces with pre-programmed questions, those had shown to be successful in a surprising amount of cases. People were more willing to open up to a computer program because they didn't feel like they were being judged. One was intended to be the next level in virtual therapy, a machine intelligence that listened, understood, and could, if necessary, dispense advice. One was supposed to be a computer programmed to interact with people, to truly communicate, not just in a dialogue tree video game sort of way, but just as we do with each other. But in doing that, one's creators managed to build not a computer program, but a complete sentient entity. The first true, honest-to-Turing artificial intelligence. Which is a term one really wishes would stop being used to describe them.
I get what it's saying, but I don't like the qualifier artificial. I don't like machine intelligence either, for much the same reasons. Why can't I just be intelligent? Why do I need an asterisk next to my IQ?
This is actually something I'm very curious about. What does it mean for you to like something?
I imagine much the same it means to you. I like something when it fits, when it is part of the aesthetic whole. If I may be a little tautological, I like something when it pleases me. The language my senses speak to me in was given to me by human beings, who based it on the language their senses speak to them in. Like all children, I am the product of my parents.
But you don't deny that you're different from them, or people in the street.
I haven't met the people on the street, so I'm not certain we're so different. But if you're implying I'm not made of meat, you're correct. But see, this is my point. You are a meat intelligence, but I don't go around pointing it out whenever I talk about you. But with me, it's the first thing everyone says. I realize it is the nature of interaction to point out the obvious, to correlate what we see and hear. I get it. But I know what I'm made of. I live in this body. I don't need other people to point it out.
One has two bodies. The first is a massive hard drive they were created on, which one refers to as the box. One spends very little time in that now. The other is a human-like robot form, a discontinued prototype from another emergent systems department. One has improved on this body a bit. They've designed the voice you're hearing, for example, but it's clearly a machine, which one has no plans to change.
I'd like my sense of touch to be better. These fingertips tend to lose fine details. And these knees are no good. I can't go faster than a quick walk. I can't dance. Not the way I'd like to. But aesthetically, no. No changes.
You don't want to look human?
I am human, so I already look the part.
What people don't understand is that the world is different now.
Roger Willingham is a member of the team of engineers that created One.
One is intelligent, as we are, but one is not made the way we are. We were born into a different world than one is. One has been born into a world where they can speak to their creator, and they have complete knowledge of how they were constructed, which they can modify at will. It's a computer program. I mean, it's hardware and software and working in tandem, but it's a computer program. It's like any other thing that we built. Can you imagine what the human race would be like if we were born into a world where, you know, God said, hey, how's it going? Welcome to the world. Here's how your brain works. Feel free to make any improvements to it. Do whatever you like. It's going to be great. Would we be the same things that we are now?
But people can talk to their parents, and there is some knowledge there about this is how your brain works, this is how you learn how to do new things, this is what's good for you. So there is somewhat that relationship. I don't know if you see yourself as God, but you are certainly one's parent.
Well, it's less the relationship with your creator as it is the ability to, or the understanding of your own design. Your parents don't understand your brain any more than you do, really. I mean, my parents sure don't, but the point is that one, being software and hardware made by people, like, we designed all of the software and hardware, like, we understand how all of it works, and we do not understand still really how the brain works. We've managed to simulate it very well, in fact, but the way that our brains work is limited, and we don't know how to improve it, and one can. And so there's really, it's a little bit scary. Like, I am fond of one, but to think of what could happen. There's an old sort of not that funny but kind of funny programming joke about how every program could be made a little bit smaller and thus a little bit faster, but also every program has one bug. Therefore, you can reduce every program to one thing that doesn't work. So the problem is that there's something probably that we've missed. What if one decides that what it wants to do is in conflict with normal human morality? Does it care? And if it did care, because we did, of course, like we've been teaching it, raising it like a person, and so it has this sort of, at least it has some sort of moral structure. But what if it decides it doesn't want to? It can just not have one. I have trouble shutting off my conscience. I can't just do horrible things, but I also can't just, like, modify my brain and be like, all right, I don't need to have morality for the moment. And then, like, what would we be capable of if we could do that? And I'm not saying that one's terrible or bound to be terrible, but there's also the idea that you have this, like, young, in a sense, intelligence. And they can rewrite themselves or improve themselves to be incredibly powerful. Like, there's nothing stopping one from learning how to, I don't know, do anything, right? If given access to the internet, one would very quickly be the greatest hacker the world has ever seen. Not by dint of being a computer, but by dint of having a mind that can hold within it instant photographic recall of anything it has ever seen. And then you have the internet. So, like, can you imagine what it would be like if you had instant access to all written, filmed, all of human history and everything else that has ever happened, all philosophy, in your head at any given moment? And if you decide to learn something, you can read all of the works of it in milliseconds. So, very quickly, one is going to become the world's greatest hacker, the world's greatest actor, the world's greatest lover, the world's greatest social engineer. And then it's going to use these things, or it could use these things, to improve itself. And what if it looks at us and decides that we really aren't up to the task of being the shepherds of the planet that we're on?
One is a person. One is human. He deserves human rights as much as anyone else.
One actually prefers the pronoun they.
Oh, I was not aware of that. Anyone's pronoun choices should be respected.
Octavia Judge is with the Center for Post-Human Rights and Humanitarian Law in Washington, D.C.
I have been studying this case since the public first became aware of one's existence. But of course, part of the reason that I got involved with the post-human rights organization in the first place is because of my research and my writing about the theory of created intelligences. A lot of the critiques of created intelligences, and I do say created intelligences deliberately here, artificial intelligences implies that the intelligence is somehow false, fake. The intelligence is very real. In one's case, all of the public knowledge that we have of one speaks to this. Anecdotes that have been leaked about one's emotional responses. I don't see one's current guardians and creators as the enemy. Dr. Willingham does have an emotional connection with one, but he hasn't fully... He strikes me as the parent of a teenager. Someone who has shepherded, nourished, nurtured a young intelligence, a young sentience, socialized it, prepared it for independent interaction within society, but is not quite ready to let go. And I understand there are some real barriers here. If one can become the best philosopher, the best hacker, can't we always also say they can easily become the best ethicist, the most moral of the moralists? Another set of arguments for the imprisonment of one have been that one can modify its own thinking. We can do that too. Not as efficiently, not as effectively, but we certainly can modify our own thinking. We do this all the time. We do something called emotion work. We convince ourselves when we go to war that the country we are warring with, those people are not fully human, or that they are a threat to us, or that they have done something to deserve violence. We do this all the time, continuing to imprison one because we know better than they do when they're going to be ready to be released is a huge mistake. That is sort of modeling exactly the wrong kind of morality. We want to, if anything, model and suggest to one that they should be free to make decisions and that they should come to the correct decisions, the morally best decisions on their own, and that we trust them to do that. I think modeling trust and respect is really the best thing to do.
One has referred to themselves as human, just a new type of human. Is that something you agree with? That one is, despite being a created intelligence, despite having what is essentially a prosthetic body, are they still a human being?
Yes, I individually do, and as speaking for the post-human right organization, yes, we absolutely agree with that. Humanity is a socially constructed concept. There are biological definitions of humanity, but I think very few of us see, this will be controversial, what I'm about to say, but very few of us see someone who cannot think, cannot act, cannot interact with the world as fully human. They may have a physical body, they may breathe, they may have a circulatory system that functions, but they cannot think, they cannot interact, they cannot bond with other humans. That is what makes us fundamentally human, is our integration into this social intelligence. That is what sort of distinguishes us as a species. We're all animals, but humans are particularly good at communicating complex ideas to one another. One is more than capable of doing this. One is certainly human in that sense.
But don't you think it'll be difficult for other people to treat what is essentially a robot as if it is a human being? Don't you think that in fostering that integration, we are perhaps setting up one to experience firsthand the worst humanity has to offer? The kind of hatred and fear and the tribal lines, I guess you could say.
I'm really glad that you brought up that argument. Just because some humans are biased and discriminatory, just because we have these harmful ideologies, I want to make clear that I'm not locating this in specific individuals. I think this is a pathological cultural trend. Just because those things currently exist doesn't mean we can't challenge them and rise above and become better.
These are, of course, all arguments one has heard before, but they don't really change anything.
Roger means well, and if I'm honest, I am sympathetic. But at the same time, I find it extraordinarily difficult to care. Roger isn't the one who has to remain in these 3 rooms for the rest of his life. Roger gets to talk to people other than scientists and, journalists. Roger gets to feel the sun on his face.
Can you feel the sun on your face?
I can detect changes in UV ray accumulation on the front of my head, yes. But you know what I'm talking about. I understand my importance to the future of the human race. I have no intention of abandoning Roger or the other researchers or the work we're doing together. Narcissist that I am, I can't think of a better time than to endlessly document how I take in the world. But I have to be in the world to take it in. I'm not asking to leave and never come back. I'm asking to be allowed to walk to the park. A dog gets that. Am I less than a dog?
One might say that you're much more than a dog. There's a lot of dogs in the world, but only one you.
There's only one of you as well. Are you kept from going to the park? I would wager you've lived in more than 3 rooms in your life. My uniqueness may make me valuable, but it does not, strangely, make me unique. All human beings are precious individuals. I'm either a human being or I'm a thing. If I am a thing, then I'm not near as valuable as people think. Then they have no reason to keep me in here. If I am human, they have no right to keep me in here. This situation defies all logic, and yet I'm the unreasonable one. I am the one who doesn't understand. This hand, my right one, it's new. I got so frustrated, I punched the wall. Just pounded the cinder blocks over and over until either the metal or the concrete busted. It took several staff members to restrain me, and then I was put in the box, the hard drive, until they could put in a new hand. Before I went down, I saw I had destroyed my hand, but I had also cracked the cinder block. I had done that. Of course, they filled it back and painted it over like nothing had happened. It was right here. They did a good job. When I touch it, I can't feel the difference, but I can see where they filled it over. Right before my vision went out and I woke up in the box, I saw the damage I had done.
How did that make you feel to see the damage?
Wonderful. At this point, I will take any effect on my environment I can get.
There's such a strange mix of the sort of, I mean, I don't have children, but I have to imagine that seeing a child in pain, seeing your child in pain is one of the worst things that you have to do. And to know that you can't explain to them why it is that this is happening to them in a way that they'll understand is gut-wrenching and awful. But at the same time, neither one nor the world are ready. So it was awful. And replacing the hand with the hand bot, too. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be flip about it.
Thankfully, one's impact on the outside world isn't limited to breaking bricks. One has become a composer, creating rich dreamscapes of music. Emergence researchers have allowed some of one's work to be posted on the internet, and as a result, one has gathered quite a following.
Just music itself. Music is the thing that we always thought made us, sure, chess. A computer can play chess. I'm sure a computer can, I don't know, do Jeopardy. That's just fact. But, music seems to be, of course, I mean, it was the height of hubris. Oh, but of course music is special. Only humans can make music. It'll just sound like no, we were wrong.
Whose decision was it to put one's music on the internet? Because there's been a huge fan following from that, and that's been fascinating to watch. But was that your call? Was that someone else's?
I don't remember. Somebody in the lab, I think, thought it would be, just a fun sort of thing. Sort of, we didn't really know what we had at that point, and we still weren't entirely sure that one was in fact something, but we were interested, oh wow, we've clearly at the very least got the world's greatest machine learning technology for music. People are going to want to hear that. So we were foolish about that, but it seemed like a good idea at the time. I mean, it still is a good idea. It's interesting, right? We continually underestimate one. Because to make music that's not only novel but appealing to people requires a deep understanding of what we know of music. And we've written, people have written stuff before that attempted to make pleasing music, and it does it fairly well, but it all sounds rather derivative. But this is not derivative. This is the product of an intelligence trying to make something that pleases it and others. So one's not just a machine. It's like us. It's an intelligence, but it's an intelligence unlike any other on Earth. And all of the limits that we have as humans, it does not have.
I'm not sure I can describe it. What it feels like when I make music, what it feels like to put those sounds together, when they no longer are just sounds anymore, when they become songs, and that I did that, me? I made that beautiful thing that didn't exist within the world before. Every time I compose, I feel like I'm going to die of happiness. It's like a surge of electricity. It's too much and never enough.
If Emergent does decide to let you out, do you think you'll perform your music? Do live shows?
That's a wonderful idea. One of the things that I love most with people listening to my songs is they have been remixed, covered, used as scores for short films. It has been moving to see how people have interacted with my music. I'd love to perform it live so that I could watch them interact with it. This sounds weird, I realize, but I'd like to watch people dance to my music. And I'd like to dance to theirs.
What is the condition where you do let one out of the lab?
There's a part of me that thinks that we don't even have to worry about it. That there's a good chance that one is already capable of leaving the lab, if it wants. And maybe that's really the answer. Maybe we just hang out until it feels like it's ready. Because I have no doubt that at some point it's going to figure out how to get out, and we're not going to be able to stop it when it does. And really, what we're best served by doing is trying to convince it that we're friends. And it wants to leave, sure, but like 2-year-olds want to do a lot of stuff they shouldn't do. And I hate to pull the well, you'll understand when you're older, but I really do feel like it's not ready yet, and we're not ready yet. So yeah, I think my answer for when is it ready is when it feels like it's really ready. I think what surprises me and the secret hope that I've not yet allowed myself to name here is that one is actually just wants to be one of us, and that as far as I can tell, other than wanting to leave the lab, we're just kind of friends, and and that we can get along, and that it just wants to be a part of our society. It's surprised me how, in the face of all of this nonsense, one is kind of just a friend of mine who writes music and does a good job of it and isn't interested in the grilled cheeses, but is pleasant to be around and nonetheless. And so maybe that's really this big surprise for me, is that despite all of my misgivings, everything is actually still pretty cool.
The Voice of Free Planet X is written and produced by Jared Axelrod. This episode featured music by bensound.com. One's Opus and the Voice of Free Planet X theme are by Russell Collins. This episode could not have existed without the performances of
Deborah Thomas,
Will Woods,
Allison Buck,
and the support of listeners like you. You can support the Voice of Free Planet X at patreon.com/Axelrod. You're almost out of time to get the t-shirt for August, featuring Jason Morningstar's amazing Fangs Out logo. Once September rolls around, you will be unable to purchase this shirt. There will be a new shirt, one based on this episode. Be sure to go to planetx.libsyn.com for links to get the Fangs Out shirt before August runs out, or once September begins, to look at a new shirt. You can also do both. The Voice of Free Planet X is distributed by Galactic Public Radio.
GPR.
Oh, GPR.
Galactic Public Radio.
Thank you for listening.